इवन दैट इज इट. तुमको कुछ चाहिए, कुछ बड़ा आदमी बनना है, पैसे चाहिए, ये चाहिए, पुत्र चाहिए, पोते चाहिए, all that prescription is given. You do like this, you will get it. So this is here. That's what it is, Brahmana section. Then Aranyaka. Aranya means actually, if you have heard this word in Hindi and Sanskrit, Aranya means jungle, like वन, जिसको बोलते हैं ना वन में जाना. अरण्यका में क्या होता है? वर्शिप, उपासना, because with pure uncontaminated mind. That those different stages we talked about, for selfish activities and hey, why am I doing this? I want to do more charity, this, that. So your mind becomes more pure. In that pure mind, you can do more upasanas and all that, making fine adjustment in mind and intellect. And then the Upanishads come, and then it's like the way Swamiji describes is that this pure equipment becomes a pair of wings with which they can fly across the finite, straight into the realms of infinite. He's using the poetic language. It's like a pure mind is like a, क्या बोलते हैं उसको, वो जो स्विमिंग करते हैं तो जंप करते हैं ना, जंपिंग बोर्ड और समथिंग. That's what it is, a pure mind. That you take that leap into the infinite. That's what the whole path is about. So it's given in the Vedas. Okay. Is anybody who has not read it and has the book that I cannot identify? I'm not sure Sneha is there. Sneha was sometimes reads.
I don't have the book.
Okay, so then we'll start the cycle again. Well, and Meera, what happened to Meera ji? She was there. Maybe she had to leave. I don't see her. Anybody sees Meera ji? No, right? Maybe something came up and she had to leave. मीना जी आप फिर से शुरू कीजिए फिर. The same technique.
This same technique is confirmed by Geeta with slight adjustments here and there in the word meaning. In fact, the technique remaining the same, only the garb of language has been remodeled to appeal to the available fashions of thought at the time of the Mahabharata. This change has often been characterized by enthusiastic critics as a total revolution, which has mischievous suggestions. Revolution is a term that is generally used when the old scheme of things is totally destroyed and is replaced by an entirely new setup. For example, the Industrial Revolution completely replaced the patriarchal scheme of social living that the West had before their windmills started revolving. No such destructive revolution has taken place with the introduction of the Gita by Vyasa or by the acceptance of it as a scriptural textbook by the Acharyas.
So in this paragraph, basically he's saying there is nothing new. It is just telling you in a different language so that you understand the true meaning of it. वैसा कोई revolution नहीं हुआ. Exactly जो Vedas में, because remember when we say Sanatan Dharma, what does it mean? Where did the word come from? It is like the eternal dharma means laws of nature don't change. And the same thing about laws of mind and laws of, like what is Brahman, what is Jiva, all that, whether you were born 10 million years ago or now, it's going to remain the same. The light is going to work just the way, Bijli is going to work just the way. So that's what it's telling you. So it is nothing new, but they have sometimes, like one person explains it, you don't understand, some next person comes, explain, you understand, right? It happens to us all the time. That's what it is. The way Krishna Bhagwan brought it down for everybody. And that's why he chose a situation which was the most horrific situation. War is about to start. And he's giving Brahma Vidya over there. What does it tell you? Anybody can learn it. You are in complete distress also, you can learn it. If you suddenly tune to it, yes, I want to listen. And then he didn't pick up, somebody like some great Mahatma or anything. He picked up some householder, like Arjun, who had a job, who had a wife, who had children, and who had job also is such a difficult one. So he brought it down to us. That's what he's saying. Nothing new is being said. It is just saying in a different way.
It is, I think, to the current times at that time, so that people can understand. Otherwise, even I felt reading Gita, that's such an old story, oh, what does it mean to me now? Now I understand it, but in the future, with the young generation and what's going on and the way it's changing so fast, everything, you have to bring up new examples,
Yes.
new way of explaining.
Yes.
That's what even, Gurudev Ji said. You have to explain in the way that
Correct.
people understand. The same thing is being explained, but in a different way, so people
Yeah,
understand it.
and that's why a lot of people, like, because now the world has changed. We have so much internet and this and that, and you can, and in this group also we listen to so many different people, and on Geeta, they do management courses based on Geeta now. There are so many people who go to big companies and they bring out points of management, how to manage your life, your people around you, how to run your company, all that they bring out. And also, like, many people will say, please don't call it a religious book. It is a science of life. It has nothing to do with religion. Anybody can pick it up. Nowhere it said word Hindu or it is only for one sect of people. It talks about the whole universe. And right, it never talks about just India or nothing. And the word also is used, धर्म क्षेत्रे कुरुक्षेत्रे. उसको धर्म क्षेत्र बोला गया है, वहाँ जहाँ पर you can learn about dharma, and then I've discussed that the first word is dharma, last word is mama dharma, my duty. Very subjective. Everybody in this, whoever is born on this earth can speak like that. My duty. You don't have to be a religious person to say that. Everybody has to do their duty, whether you believe in God or not. So see how it starts only in the subject matter of it. My duty. What is it? Go ahead.
Next person.
Oh, yeah. Who was the next person? Yeah, go ahead.
And yet the Gita, all the same, represents a revolution. When a flower matures into a fruit, certainly it is a destruction of the flower as such. But in the fruit, the essence of the flower, namely its fertilized ovum, has found fulfillment. Those who do not know the science of plant life may mourn the destruction of the flower when they see the fruit standing where the flower stood before. But a botanist clearly understands that only the unnecessary aspects in the flower have withered away, and that the essential in the flower has grown to its fuller fulfillment in the fruit.
Read the next paragraph also, because it's a part of it.
Sure. Similarly, the elaborate ritualism, their show and mystery, their detailed preparations and arrangements, which constitute the bulk of Vedic books, have all withered away, but the essential technique which lies almost imperceptibly in the Vedic volumes has found a perfect fulfillment, inasmuch as it has been brought out as a complete and self-evident science in the Gita.
So see how he's telling you that the majority of the 80% is all that other stuff. But that is just to mature it to go to the final. That's the purpose. So when people start saying, "Arey Vedo mein to aisa likha hai," hey, but do you understand the context of it? Oh, वेदों में लिखा है कि भाई you can fulfill all your desire, तो लोग वही करते जाते हैं पूरी जिंदगी. Oh, यज्ञ और वो कर रहे हैं, मेरी desire fulfill हो जाए. But they are not saying just stop over there. And then he gave such a beautiful example of flower and the fruit. Flower get destroyed, but in real term, botanist term, it has not destroyed. It has just dropped its unnecessary things, and then the ovum becomes a fruit. And that's what the purpose was to begin with. And the fruit has a seed. So then it's going to become another tree. See how it is? So here he's saying that basically he's giving you a message that your first part of Sare Veda hai 80%, that for preparation to go to that last one. And once you reach there, drop all this. That's what he's saying. Okay, the next person was, do you have this paragraph, Shireen, Lord Krishna, after indicating?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Lord Krishna, after indicating the supreme goal of perfection, exhausts himself in the following 2 chapters, enunciating the methods of true activity. Activity in life, intelligently undertaken, is a means to reach the highest spiritual consummation. Primary education is as unavoidable as higher secondary education for a student to fulfill his ambition to become a doctor or an advocate, an engineer or an economist. Just as a student, after his primary lessons, must enter the higher secondary classes, after the fulfillment of which he must again strive hard to pass the early college lessons before he can hope to enter any of the specialized branches of education. So too, from desireless activities undertaken with a yagna spirit, a seeker must change over to the path of meditation.
So this is a very significant, don't misunderstand him saying, oh, don't try meditation. That's not what he's saying. Huh? He's just telling you that these other things that in our life are unavoidable to go through that primary and then go to the second and then go to college, then, do your postdoctoral fellowship or whatever. There's a path. And there are few kids who are like prodigies, we call them, right? Who might, at the age of 15, got a doctorate degree. That if that guy got, doesn't mean all of us can do it. So we cannot avoid karma yoga. Basically, he's saying, and premature dropping off, and I want to become a sadhu because I want a fast track. I want to do this. It's not going to happen. So he's just cautioning you again in a different language, And I think we have hammered in this class very much all these things. And I think the beauty of karma yoga is, like we were discussing, it automatically slides you into the next stage. That's the beauty of it. Like, I think Krishna ji is here, we were discussing कि अपने आप छूटने लगता है. All of a sudden, it's not like, oh, from tomorrow I don't want to do this. तुमको पता भी नहीं चलेगा, you lose interest. And like there is one verse in Bhagavad Gita which says, when you lose interest in something, वो चीजें आनी बंद हो जाएगी तुम्हारे पास. If you don't care about the wild parties and all that maybe you cared about when you were younger, वो लोग आएंगे ही नहीं तुम्हारे पास. Because this is a boring बन गया आदमी, it doesn't, party की जान नहीं रह गया अभी है, तो अपने आप ही भाग जाएंगे वो लोग. And you will start pursuing things that interest you, and those things and people will start coming to you. So that's what is the beauty of this path. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to stop here and we'll continue reading. And the reason is that the next verse in Kathoupanishad is very, very important, and it has a lot in it. And we may not even finish, but that's okay. We'll go slow. But I'm going to put a note for myself here that we'll continue from here. Any question on this? Question, comment, or somebody wants to add whatever we read? Okay. Silence means या तो मैंने आप लोगों को बहुत कंफ्यूज कर दिया या I did a great job. I don't know.
Great job.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to close Bhagavad Gita here. Sarva dharman parityajya mamekam sharanam vraja aham tva sarva papebhyah moksha ishyami ma shuchah. Hari Om Shri Guru Pyo Namaha. Hari Om. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanam Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Guru Pyo Namaha. Hari Om. So the verse that we didn't read Swamiji's commentary was, I had explained in detail, where it said the killer and the person who's getting killed, they both are not the doer. In a nutshell, that's what it meant. So basically, another way of looking at it is that the Brahman cannot be an object. You cannot objectify it because it doesn't do anything. In its presence, everything happens. And then all these verses have to be taken together, because previously it was na jayate mriyate, means it is neither born nor it dies, and it is, and the other one it was shashvata purana, Nityam, all those different meaning, that it is very ancient and as though new, no changes happen, and it is eternal, infinite, eternal. All those things we have to think it together. And so let's read this verse 19, Swamiji's commentary. Anybody needs a page number, or everybody has it, whoever has a book? Okay.
Page 129, if anybody needs it.
Yeah. So maybe Anilji, up, you can read.
So I'm reading on page 130, verse 20.
No.
No.
What we are doing, Anilji, is we did not read Swamiji's
19,
commentary of 19. Yeah, if the slayer thinks.
Yes. If the slayer thinks, I slay, and if the slain thinks, I am slain, then both of them do not know well. This slays not, nor is this slain.
So remember, this is from the highest perspective. It's like saying, that, space. I can cut the space because I made a house and now this has become my space. It's just a delusion. You cannot cut space. It's always one. So, I'm just giving a worldly example because the world maybe that is true. That's what it. And it's more pervasive. It is, you cannot even touch. And this is the highest one. That's why you can, neither it slays nor it is slain. And the other example, you can, in its presence, everything happens. That's the most important thing that we have to remember.
In the Geeta, we notice that the above mantra, especially its second line, is repeated in developing a parallel thought which amounts to almost an actual borrowing. What does that mean?
That means जो पहला plagiarism हुआ ना वो कृष्ण भगवान ने किया. He took the verse exactly from the Upanishad and he planted it into Geeta. That's what it means. Means this अगर आप देखो ना ये verse जो हम पढ़े हैं, the last line is ubhavto na vijanito nayam hantina hanyate. It is there in Bhagavad Gita. If you go back to chapter 2, you will see it. And उसके पहले वाला verse भी अजो नित्यम शाश्वतो यम पुराणो, exactly it is there. न हन्यते हन्यमाने शरीरे. That's what it means. Because remember, it is like Bhagavad Gita is the sar of Upanishad, no? So he's taken, and Kathoupanishad is a very important one from Krishna Bhagwan has taken many ideas from here and everything to tell Arjuna.
If a murderer feels that by wounding the body, the Atma is killed, or if the murdered comes to despair on his deathbed, that his Atma is dying, both of them are under a delusionary conception that the body is the soul. The stupidity of such thinking becomes more poignantly apparent to us if we were to say that we have broken the space in the cup when we throw the cup down. This mantra reveals its meaning to anyone who has carefully followed our discussion upon the previous mantras.
So here, basically same concept again, that hey, if somebody is dying doesn't mean their Atma is dying. Just the body is dying. That's all he's saying. So the conclusion is, if in the line of your duty, like Arjun was a soldier, if in line of duty he has to kill somebody, unko paap nahi lagega, because there are, from the highest perspective, nobody is killing anybody. But in the line of duty, if that's what happens, and it also gives us a lot of solace that, sometimes untimely death happens and things like that. And, if you think from the worldly perspective, you will never find a good answer, right? But from the spiritual perspective, you have an immediate answer, that, hey, it's a soul's journey, came here to do something, finished, and now going to the next, So it is like from the highest perspective, Atma is same. Nothing has changed. That's what it means. And it also is telling you this mantra reveals itself in its meaning who has carefully followed the other one. अगर तुम किसी नौ सिखिए को जाके ये बोलोगे तो बोलेगा पागल बने क्या वहाँ पे. They are saying कि जो मारता है उसको तो वो मार ही नहीं रहा है. Imagine if somebody has never studied those concepts, they are going to be horrified at this. But there is a context of it. That's why the Upanishad is mainly for the people who have already studied the basic. बोलना चाहिए ब्रह्म विद्या का बेसिक जिनको ज्ञान होता है ना वो लोग समझ सकते हैं ज़्यादा. So, and because we are doing Bhagavad Gita and this together now, you can see that how it's like matching with all the concepts and everything. Does that make sense, whatever I'm saying? Everybody understood, right? This is from the highest perspective he's talking about. Okay, so this was the last one. Now the next one, also parts of it is in Bhagavad Gita. Okay, so I'll chant the next verse. Arnoraniyan mahato mahiyan atmasya jantor nihito guhayam tama kratu pashyati vita shoko dhatu prasadan mahimatmamatmanaha. Arno is of the subtlest. Aniyan is the subtler. Mahataha, the greatest. Mahiyan, greater. Atma, we know the Atman. Asya is its. Jantoho, this is a very interesting one, of the living beings. So तेजोमयानंद जी ने वहाँ पर जोक किया, बोला कि यहाँ पर जंतु बोला है हम लोगों को, मतलब जो लिविंग बींग्स है. तो बोलते लोग बोलेंगे नहीं मैं जंतु नहीं हूँ, जंतु तो कीड़े मकोड़े होते हैं. No, but संस्कृत में उसका मीनिंग अलग होता है. जंतु means the one who is born and one who grows. That's what it means actually. So all of us are like living beings, comes under that category. Nihitaha is seated. Guhayam, in the cavity of the heart. So this Atma is seated in the cavity of the heart, and Tejomayanji explained that it doesn't mean that that's the only place it is there. Huh? Atma is all pervading. But that's the only place I can experience it. That's why they tell you to go inward. Because nobody can show what is Atma outside. It can be experienced in your heart. That's why. Tama is that akratuhu, desireless. इसका भी बहुत deep meaning है, and we'll study. Pashyati, realizes. Actual meaning of pashyati means to see. Pashya means to see. But here the meaning is much deeper than just physical seeing. It means understanding, realizing, and that kind of stuff, Realization. Self-realization, that's what it means over here. Vita shokaha, free from sorrow. Dhatu, of the sense and mind. इसका भी बहुत deeper meaning है, and we will see where the word came from. Because हिंदी में खाली धातु बोला means कोई metal को हम लोग बोलते हैं, फलाना धातु, but it's telling you why they chose this word. Prasadat is grace through purity and tranquility. Mahimanam is majesty, great. Atma के लिए ये word use किया, because Atma को Brahman भी बोलते हैं, which means the big, the biggest. Atmana is of the self. So what it is in this verse is very, very significant verse, and I'll tell you why. Because in this verse, one second, let me close this. Okay. So in this verse is for deep contemplation. इस वर्ष में बताया गया है कि फर्स्टली आत्मा को या ब्रह्मन को और डिस्क्राइब किया है. पहले हमने डिस्क्रिप्शन देखा कि न जायते न म्रियते एंड ऑल दैट, इट डजंट अनबॉर्न नॉट डाइज एंड इट इज नित्य पुराणम शाश्वत एंड ऑल दैट, एंड देन इट सेज इट डजंट गेट किल्ड व्हेन द बॉडी इज किल्ड. ऑल दैट वी लर्न. इट्स गोइंग टू गो फर्दर to understand what Atma is, and we're going to see that it is smaller than the smallest and the bigger than the biggest, and we'll see what it means. Then it talks about who can realize this Atma. Okay, Atma is there. Who is like adhikari of realize? Who is like क्या बोलना चाहिए, prepared? Preparation, किसका mind prepared है, and how? And so one is that, who is the adhikari, and then how to realize it. Path is given also. And finally, what is the result of it? Okay, if I realize that, now what will happen? 4 things are given in this verse. It's like a whole Vedanta is there, that's why. But it's given in a very subtle, small, like shortest form, and only saints and sages can expand it and tell us. That's why we have commentaries of Shankaracharya, Tejamyananji, Chinmayananji to understand this. If we just read it, then we will we'll miss everything. Okay, so let's go one by one what he's saying. Let's see how much time we have, 15 minutes. So we'll see the best and we can continue, because this verse probably require 2 classes. So it starts with Anoraniyan Mahato Maniyan. Anu bolte hain Hindi mein. If you take a literal translation, it means like an atom. So in the scientific world also, if smallest thing, what is there? So सीधा ध्यान atom पे जाता है. People like me or some of the people in this, we may not even know what an atom looks like. I mean, I have not seen an atom through the microscope. So I don't know, but people talk about it. That's why I know that it's the smallest thing. But within that atom also, you have, people who are like physicists and all that. They will say there is electron, proton, and neutron, and then there is empty space. And it's whirling around and all that. So that's the minutest thing we know as human beings, right? He's telling you it's smaller than the smallest or subtler than the subtlest. So there are 2 same, you can use smaller than the smallest or subtler than the subtlest, but it's indicating to the similar kind of thing. Okay. But then suddenly somebody, what Tejomayananji said, if you tell somebody it's smaller than the smallest, immediately they start imagining something like an atom or small. Immediately it tells you bigger than the biggest. So that you don't get stuck with this, Atma is somewhere hiding in you somewhere. No. It's the bigger than the biggest. Why did it say bigger than the biggest? Because actually what they are talking about is pervasiveness. Okay. And then why they have to say smaller than the smallest? So Tejomayananji came with a brilliant example. He's saying कि एक सुई होती है, right? सुई में उसमें वो जिसमें छेद में हम लोग धागा डालते हैं. I cannot do that anymore. I don't know how many of you can do it. Now I have to buy this bigger and bigger eye Valli needle. And the last time I was trying to put a button, and because the eye became so big that I could not go through the button. So it's like I was having other kind of difficulty. Anyway, besides the point. But anyway, why he said, because he said कि संस्कृत में ना उसको needle की आँख बोलते हैं. No, sorry, not आँख, mouth. इंग्लिश में आई ऑफ द नीडल बोलते हैं. यस इंग्लिश में आई ऑफ द नीडल बोलते हैं, संस्कृत में माउथ ऑफ द नीडल. वट एवर इट इज, दैट स्मॉल होल, उसमें भी स्पेस है कि नहीं? एंड लाइक तो स्पेस वहां भी है, तो छोटे में छोटे है कि नहीं स्पेस? इफ यू थिंक ऑफ द स्मॉलेस्ट थिंग दैट वी कैन अंडरस्टैंड, चलो आई ऑफ द नीडल छोटा सा, उसमें भी स्पेस है. एंड द स्पेस is there, like all the galaxies, the whole universe exists in space. तो बड़े से बड़ा हो गया कि नहीं? So बड़े से बड़ा भी हो गया और छोटे से छोटा भी है. That's why it's telling you to understand this. Atma is all pervasive. It is everywhere and it's also in the cave of my heart. See how it's telling you smaller than the smallest, bigger than the biggest, and that Swamiji's, our Chinmayananji's favorite word is, it talks about pervasiveness. Just think about pervasive. That's why it's calling this 2 terms to make you understand the pervasiveness of this Atma. And to us, the most pervasive thing that we can understand is space. And just think of it as that space is also an Atma. Okay? And then in the Swamiji's commentary, you will come across, he will point out to one of the verses in chapter 10. Krishna Bhagavan says that this whole universe is just a very small portion of me. Meaning, it is just like a little flutter on his little Angavastra, like I was talking about, very little. And just like the example I gave, the ocean and the waves are very small part of the ocean because it's only on the surface. Depth is like tremendous of the ocean, you know. All those concepts, you have to think it together, and then you will understand what this means, the first line. Any question on that?
There's no question, but like you mentioned about the water in the waves. Okay, if one could understand the ocean and the wave, if one could understand the water, then there doesn't seem to be anything of the, because water is the essence of both.
True.
That was one aspect. Then the other one was, if one remembers, I mean, to me, I always think of it as the whole, this creation is made up of the 5 tantras, which is of consciousness itself. If I can remember that, then what can be other than that is my feeling.
Yeah, you are right. All those things are completely valid. And so that's why this subject can be approached from many different angles. So you are approaching from, and that is a very good angle that, hey, like when we say Brahman, and that's why they say that there is nothing but God. Why? Because it is just a different form, and I'm looking at it as a form, but actually it is Brahman only. And the best example is like what Sarva Priyananji says. You take a wooden chair and you say, hey, that's a chair, but without wood it's nothing. You cannot take wood out of it. Actually, it is wood only. I'm calling it a chair. My mind gave, or my whatever, our language gave it that name.
Yeah,
From the wood perspective, it's saying, hey, I'm a wood. I don't care. You call it a chair or table, whatever you want to call it, you call it. But I'm the wood. So what you're saying is 100% valid. If somebody has that deep understanding, perfect. And also another point that is brought out by you is that's exactly why they are saying that once self-realization, क्यों बोलते हैं? Once you realize that Atma, that's when you realize it's the same thing everywhere. Yes, right?
Yes.
So all these people who have had self-realization, some of them talk about their experience, some don't. Only 2 people have talk openly about it. One is Yogananji and one is Sadhguru. Sadhguru says that he sat on Chamundi Hill one day and he felt the oneness. He became one with the whole universe.
Yes.
And there's so much joy. He was just crying with ecstasy, he said. And the time kept passing by and all that. So that's what it is, what you're saying. So if I know H2O, all of a sudden, hey, the entire ocean is H2O.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah.
So that's a very good approach to it, But if somebody is not to that level, you say, hey, what is the relationship between wave and ocean? Ocean is the primary thing. There is a little bit of disturbance happening on it that we call it wave. Ocean is not even concerned about it. The same way the universe comes and goes, and that Brahman is just there, relaxing. That's why when they show विष्णु जी, उनको कैसे बोलते हैं, रिलैक्स करें अपने शेषनाग के ऊपर. He looks so relaxed, but he's doing so much work. But he's not disturbed and has anxiety like we do. In nature, things happen. That's all. True.
Also, as you mentioned earlier, to me that was very important. When there's the smallest, to realize we need that it is within us. That part of it, till we realize it, the bigger we, subtlest and bigger we don't. But when this is with you, that's where you're going to realize finally. And that's when you're going to open up to the whole world.
That's why they keep telling you to go internal. That's exactly why. Because that human beings we are made such a way, or, like that's where we're going to realize it. Exactly. You got it. Okay. So this is...
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Can I ask you a question here?
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Anilji.
When they say smaller than the smallest and bigger than the biggest, does it also mean that you can't see it? It is all pervasive, you can only realize it.
True. Yes. And that's exactly what the other part of it is, the smaller and the smaller, that it is formless and it's all pervasive. So that's why it cannot be objectified. That's why they say that a Bhagwan, nobody can say, hey, that is Bhagwan like that. It is a form of Bhagwan, you can say, but entire Bhagwan, you cannot say it is that, because it is what you said, that it is something that's why Shravanam is so important. You can only hear about it. You cannot see it with your eyes, and you can try to contemplate, internalize, and try to understand it that way. That's why Shravanam, Mananam, and Nididhyasana. True. Okay, so any other question on this, smaller and the smallest? And I want to bring up one more point, which it doesn't talk about here, but talks about in another Upanishad. It says it's nearest to the nearest and farthest of the farthest. That also is perfect, because nearest is in the cave of your heart, farthest, it's all pervasive. Right now, they don't even know the end of the universe. Like, nobody knows. They think it's expanding right now, the way the scientists talk about it. It's farthest. You can't even, our mind cannot wrap around it. It's that far away. So even that way it is explained. And then one of the Swamis said, it's a space. Space is right now nearest to me. It is through me. And the end of it is also space. So end of the universe. हो गया कि नहीं farther to farthest? कितने smart हैं ये लोग, जब ये लोग describe करते हैं तो कितना scientific ढंग से करते हैं. But as I said, यहाँ पर 2 + 2 4 नहीं होता है. It's a contemplative subject, to understand this. Yeah. I think that's the whole journey ka fun of the journey, if you ask me. That it really jogs your intellect, So should I go to the next one? What it's saying? Let's see what the time, 5 minutes, so we can do a few more words. And then formless and proper wording, that I did. The second thing is, where is it? And we also discussed that already. It is, they call it shining, Chaitanya Swarup, right? That's another word they use. Sat Chit Anand, Chaitanya Swarup. As though form of light, but it is not the physical light they are talking about. Huh? It is shining in itself. This is also another contemplative subject. When they talk about shining, जैसे बोलते हैं, let me give you the example. The intellect is very bright, we say the word. Does that mean कि कोई light वहाँ पर चालू हो गई or something? No. How do we equate the word bright with? It's like a concept that intellect से सब कुछ समझ में आता है. Okay? So that is that Chaitanya Swarup we can look at. It's not the physical light, the shining they're talking about. It is the consciousness ka shining. Okay, that's another thing. And then the second question was, remember, that where is it, this thing? It is in the cave of your heart of Jantus. Jantus, living beings. This, next thing it is coming. Atmasya Jantor Nihito Guhayam. It is seated in the cave of your heart. And then he explained what heart is, not that pumping one, that, because people get confused. I've heard people say that, oh, Atma is in your heart, as though it is some small, एक उपनिषद में कहा है अंगुष्ठ मात्र और समथिंग, अंगूठे के साइज का तुम्हारे हृदय में है, पर उसका सटल मीनिंग कुछ और ही है. If we ever come to that, we will study that. So people started making, little picture of this anguthe ki jitna, and this is Atma sitting in the heart. No, that's not what they're talking about. The spiritual heart pervades the entire body, number one, and beyond it also. It is where the intellect and the heart, like all your emotions come together. And it is that spot in yourself where all the good things bubble out. Compassion, love, all those things, from where it bubbles out, uske cave mein baitha hai ye. That's how we have to look. Uski gehrayon mein hai. And we have done this verse. If you think about it, go back to Kathoupanishad, we have done this verse. That it is something, it's in a jungle mein, it looks like a big jungle, this world, uske cave mein hai ye. Because jungle of my thoughts, but it is in the cave of it. So again, it's a very contemplative thing where it is in the heart of human being or generals, living being, not even human being, living being. Okay, so what we're going to do is, there's still time, no? Okay, I can do another one. The next one was, who can realize it? What is it? Who's the adhikari? Adhikari is the word akratu, sorry. ये जो थर्ड लाइन है ना, तम क्रतु पश्यति वीत शोको, उसमें एक वर्ड है अक्रतु. अक्रतु मीन्स, if you get simple meaning, a person who is free from desire. निष्काम कर्म, निष्काम हो, जो जिसका हृदय निष्काम हो. The word is coming from kratu means, Tejo Manaji was explaining in Sanskrit, it could mean yagnas, yagas, and the rituals that we do, that we learned in Bhagavad Gita. But he also mentioned that these rituals are done when we have a desire. Then only yagya karte hain na log, या तो पर्सनल डिजायर के लिए, या डिजायर टू gain everything for the community, whatever it is. The base of that yagna is desire. So he's saying desire means, there is another word in Sanskrit, sankalp. Sankalp is like my resolve. So puja bhi karte hain, so I don't know how many of you, lot of pandits are there maybe in this group from the family tradition, where they say कोई भी पूजा करने के पहले संकल्प लिया जाता है, मैं क्यों कर रही हूँ ये पूजा, एक डिजायर के लिए कर रही हूँ. ओके, सो अ पर्सन हु इज डिजायरलेस, दैट पर्सन इज क्वालिफाइड टू गेट दिस. सो यू हैव टू राइज अबाव योर वर्ल्डली डिजायर्स टू गेट टू दिस. एंड देन ही टोल्ड अ रीजन. ही इज सेइंग दैट if I have a desire for in this world, or even Swargalok, suppose, like how this Nachiketa's dad was doing it for gaining Swargalok, where will my attention be? It will always be outside, because I want something. If it's going to be always outside, I'll never realize the Atma, because what did they say? Atma can be only realized in your cave of your own heart, so you will never turn inward. That's why he said that you have to be akratuhu, means desireless. You have to turn your mind from outside to inward. That once you turn your mind from outside to inward, then you become qualified to gain this Atma. So that is like the very important thing that we have to learn. And then we'll continue next time. Already like lot of important heavy stuff is there. Any question on these 3-4 terms that we learned today? Or any comment, or somebody wants to add something?
Yeah, on this desire thing, I was going to add, the way to look at it is there's God, and then there are shopkeepers. Shopkeepers are one, when you give something, you get something in return.
Mm-hmm.
So all the sankalp and everything you get is from these shopkeepers.
True.
It could be Hanuman, Shiv, anybody. So if your desire is to gain something through sankalp, you have to do some puja or whatever. But in order to attain God, you should have no sankalp.
Yeah, and what in that commentary will come, Swamiji says that sometimes even desire for liberation can become a hindrance. So in the end, wo bhi drop karna hota hai.
Yeah, you cannot find God if you desire God.
Yes, there you go. So सहज में होएगा वो.
Yeah.
तो ये कभी-कभी एंजाइटी हम देखते हैं ना क्लास में, I want to go fast, and they are not talking about doing your karma yoga, and you have to understand that what they are trying to tell you. Neither you can rush it, nor you can desire. You have to drop all the desires.
Right.
Yeah. Let it happen naturally. Yeah, true. Any other? Both of those verses are very kind of contemplative, no? Lot of things. Okay, if you don't have any question on this and comment, then I'll close this over here. सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः सर्वे सन्तु निरामया सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत् हरि ओम श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः हरि ओम।